Hello and welcome to the Dale and Mike Inside News Show. I'm Dale. There's Mike and also Bill Hunker today. Hello, gentlemen.
Yes,
Good day.
and we have a lot of other content. Otherwise, I'd have a nice little picture over here or over here. Yes,
Yes.
I forget which side it is, and little label there saying that Bill is with us. But Bill Hunker is with us, and he has lots of very heady information about statistics.
Oh, boy, that's interesting. I always find that fascinating. You know,
Yeah.
uh, Bill, Bill is our county sheriff's least favorite statistician. Sorry, but well, somebody has to be number one. That's Bill. One of the reasons we do this is, and if we're going to be convinced to let go of hard-earned money, then they're just really going to have to tell us what the numbers are. And so if they're not willing or incapable of telling us what the numbers are, great. We'll go out and find them. We'll give you the best numbers that we can find, the best numbers that the state can provide based on numbers they've been given by the Sheriff's Department and the Grants Pass City Police. And the police chief, Bill Landis, he's not shy about it. He'll tell you what he knows and what he doesn't know. A little bit more of a touchy relationship with the county sheriff. And it's all based on, well, what is the truth? We want to know the truth. And so we're going to try to get it for you, whatever it may say. Okay. So, we have a little piece of news from each of us. Bill, why don't you lead off? What you mentioned that you had a little piece of regular everyday news to share with us today. What is that news, sir?
Well, this is kind of street news. My wife Dorothy was down at a kitchen store yesterday and was just talking with the women in there, and the subject of the tax came up, and they were all loaded, I guess, and were very much against the tax, the city proposed city sales tax, to the point that they said that the owners are contemplating going to Ashland if the tax goes voted in.
Wow.
And I think that store in particular is kind of a draw store in our town. It's an excellent store as far as the stocking and reputation and so forth. And I would pay attention when they start saying they're annoyed by what's going on. So.
Well,
anyway, that's I just picked that up yesterday.
Listen, that's quite a coincidence because I was in that store today talking to them because we're setting up street interviews for tonight, because tonight's First Friday. We're going to go out and do some man on the street stuff on the sales tax topic. And they said that the owner is very animated on this topic, and that we should stop back in there. And every one of the people there had something to say. But in terms of being on camera, they said that the owner would be the guy for that. I did stop in at J. Austin Fine Jewelers today. And I spoke with the owner there, Mark, and he has been on Bill Meyer's show. He was also a speaker there at the city council meeting. And I got about 10 minutes on camera with him today, and I have a teaser of that we'll play a little bit later.
And I had mentioned to you, I think it was last night, that I've spoken with the new publisher of the Daily Courier, and he indicated to me that he did indeed tell the Grants Pass City Council members that were on their sales tax task force, that if they decide to go ahead with this, which they have, that the Daily Courier may very well sue the Grants Pass City Council and government.
Wow. Don't you feel like you're kind of in bizarro world now? Because, I mean, don't they normally go along with everything the local government wants to do?
That's kind of the Grants Pass Chamber of Commerce is let me put it the other way. The Grants Pass City Council has taken a stand counter to the Grants Pass Chamber of Commerce.
Chamber of Commerce. Yes. Wow. Yes. I heard that.
But they are insistent that they're getting flooded with telephone calls and passionate appeals, similar to what Cheryl Walker said about people not wanting a voter's pamphlet, flooded with things where people are backing them to the hilt. Why, we would love to have a sales tax. Please, please have a sales tax.
Yes.
One more
None
thing
of
about
them want to show up and say their thing in front of a camera.
no, they don't.
Seen by the public.
And one more thing, just a rumor. This is only a rumor. It's not been confirmed by two sources. There is a rumor that the Grants City Council would prefer not to have a voter's pamphlet.
Of course they would.
Wow, here we go again.
Yeah.
Now, gentlemen, what would you see in a voter's pamphlet that makes it death to Cheryl Walker and makes it unlikely that the Grants Pass City Council would want one? What would be in there? Number one thing that would be in there.
Oh, the details of the how the sales tax is going to be implemented and who's going to pay it, and who gets affected by it, and then arguments for and against.
Oh no, not that. We can't have that. And Cheryl Walker was right.
We don't like arguing.
From Cheryl's point of view, she was right. As soon as that voter's pamphlet, she said, well, people could put counter arguments in there. That's what a voter's pamphlet does. So if you're going to be a liar and a cheater, you don't want anybody else, poking fun at your goofy, your well thought out ideas.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So Mike's going to play. This is great that you did this, Mike. Mike has a portion of an interview. This is a teaser. You're supposed to feel teased by watching this of what this fellow from J. Austin Fine Jewelers had to say about the sales tax. He's got a lot to say. We're playing a small part of it for you. Go ahead, Mike.
How is the proposed sales tax, this proposed city sales tax, how is that going to affect your business?
Well, on the retail side, it'll affect the jewelry sales. There'll be a 2% tax on the jewelry. I'm not so concerned about myself. What I'm concerned about is the activity that's in downtown Grants Pass, basically. That's what I'm concerned with. I rely a lot on foot traffic. Most of my business is based on buying, so my impact is not, it's not a huge impact actually on my business. But if we start losing businesses in the downtown area, which I've been talking to people who are already on the verge, they don't do as much volume as we do, and they're already on the verge thinking about closing down. And this is one of the things that's never considered when people pass a new tax. People who are on the verge of thinking about closing their business down when there's a new law passed that's against them, because any tax is against the person that's being taxed, whether you receive a benefit ultimately or not. And so a lot of people, I think, that are on the borderline, they're thinking about staying open for another 6 months or another year, maybe 2 years, and then throwing in the towel. They'll just go ahead and throw in the towel. And I've had several people tell me that already. And so my concern with my shop is the less traffic, the more the downtown looks like a ghost town.
Broken window effect.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And it's really, really bad. I think people don't understand. This hasn't really been done with a general sales tax in a city right next to another city that doesn't have one. And they did admit, in the meeting, that it was arbitrary that Medford's 25 minutes away. That they haven't really done the research. They can't really compare it. They compared the income of this city to cities in Washington State, which I don't think you can do effectively. And they also use census data, and census data includes online retail sales. And if you do that, you're not really getting a picture of what the volume is going to be like and what you're going to get. And there's no inclusion in the data of the businesses that are going to close and that lack of income. So there's
basically you get the gist. This guy has he's very full of information about this. He went on in great detail about what he believes the effect of this is going to be. And, these guys are the ones who have put the pencil to the paper. They understand how this thing's going to be, because it affects them. It doesn't affect, the only effect to the people of the city council is, hey, we got more money to spend. The effect for these people that are doing business is, do we continue doing business here, or do we move somewhere that's more favorable to doing business and let the great sucking sound suck Grants Pass into the hole. That's kind of how I see it. That's a little opinion thrown in there.
Well,
but,
one, we can do that on the show. It's okay. My mother said it was okay. Look,
Yes.
one of the things about this is that somebody like Mark Gatlin, which this guy slightly reminded me of, it's maybe the head, and some of the city councilors may say is, well, where's our chance? You know what, guys? You've got like a 3-hour meeting, and the stuff is televised. We can't show it because of David Reeves, but it's very difficult to get hold of that in any kind of way that you can see clearly, and we can't see the charts and all. Don't get me started on that. But they've got microphones in front of them. They're live on cable TV, and so they've got all the opera. Well, you're not being fair, and we should be on your show. Yeah, right. So at least we're presenting something that nobody else is presenting to you. And one other thing to think about. There's been some fuss about the way that this thing is going to be worded on the ballot. Yeah. Because the way they've worded this thing is, I'm going to paraphrase here, obviously. This is a bill that if you vote for this, you'll get kittens, you'll get sunshine, and there's going to be a tax. And other wonderful things that are, hey, put the tax first on the list, and don't list 3 different items in this thing. That may be against state law to do that. If you're going to reduce this and reduce that, and then also impose a tax, that it may be that you have to say that one at a time on 3 different deals. But don't load it up with, oh, we're going to repeal this tax. Isn't that wonderful? Oh, look, we're repealing another tax. Isn't that wonderful? And oh, by the way, we're adding a tax. What?
Yeah. Yes.
Really? Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, boy. Well, so let's talk a little bit about some of the new numbers. We'll go back and we'll look at the old number. Look, to put this in context, when the pro-levy people were suggesting that which the sheriff said to us recently too, that crime is going through the roof, and my gosh, if we'll just wait for the 2013 2014 numbers, we don't have from 15 yet. Look, 15's only 2/3 the way over. When you've got those, this will prove that we're right, because we'll show you that the guns are longer. No, that the crime in Grants Pass is nothing compared with the county, and you're going to see, and the numbers are skyrocketing. It's going to be proof to you. Well, we've got one of the 2 years, and you know what? It does not prove their contention. Go figure. And so these are the actual numbers. And Mike, why don't you put up the one there that compares, that looks similar to my gun chart over my shoulder here, that compares the 2 Grants Pass with the county whenever you can.
Okay, there you go.
Now, the blue bars are the amount of crime that we've seen over the years. See the gentle dip there in the middle. The blue bars are Grants Pass City, and the red bars are the per 1,000 population for the county. And what we're looking at here is, they do look a little bit like guns.
Now, hey, Dale, can you see the years underneath it there?
Yes, I can. I don't know if everybody at home can.
Okay.
Yes, I can. Now, it starts with 2004, and the last one's 2013. These are the statistics. And what we were showing you what Bill was showing us was, look, it's a gentle dip and then slightly up for the city, but staying relatively the same. We're going to see a next chart here for the county. As a matter of fact, we've now seen a dip in 2013, not a climb. They promised us that you would see this huge climb, that the way they were describing it, it could be way up over the blue bars. Why don't you show the red ones, Mike? Okay. This is the 2004 through 2013 county crimes per 1,000 population. And as you can see, back when we were fully funded, over on the left, crime was out of control, fully funded. And then we had less funding, and crime dropped down. Well, we're going to report to you. You're going to see why every dollar will be well spent if only, hey, crime is out of control. Well, look at the last year. Last year is 2013. They promised us you'd see. Now, what's their answer going to be? So,
well, you know what? I mean, I'll tell you what this chart does to my head. It makes me think that somebody who seriously wants to study this on a nationwide basis needs to put together, is there a correlation between the amount of funding that gets spent in a particular municipality or county or city or state or whatever, and the amount of crime that ends up as a statistic? Because, with less and less and less and less funding, we've had less and less and less and less crime.
What's ridiculous about this is I started that as a joke. It was my joke.
No, but
a joke too.
Right, but now it really seriously needs to be looked into, because I'm wondering, do they just not have enough staff to write down all the numbers because they're coming in so fast and furious? They have to let some of them just zip by.
This has to be their argument. This has to be their argument. Okay,
one would think.
Let's the three of us try to give their best argument along those lines. Bill, why don't you start it off? The idea that they cannot in any way report the crimes because there's so many crimes, there's no time to report them.
If there's no time, they would not be turning in the numbers. And the reports every year, and this year are very clear. In fact, they've done a very nice job of showing who's reported in what month and who didn't. And this is not just counties. This is every entity in the county. So even if the OLCC person didn't turn in for a month or whatever, it would show. And so each entity shows whether or not they turned in each month. And our county had every month checked on the new system. It's a new computer system that is mandatory by 17, but was phased in starting in, I think, probably 12. And we did every month. We have our check marks there, as most counties have. There's to me, funny that Douglas seemed to have some problems in 2013 where I hadn't seen it before. But and I want to, Dale, add to what you say on the red marks there. I mean, we say, the numbers are coming in so fast that we can't handle them. So what happens is we pour everything over to the OSP. But I want to mention that the 2013 numbers are the first time I have included every single incident that OSP handled. I've put them in the county. All years before 13, they're prorated.
Oh, wow.
No, they're prorated. So if 80% of the crime happened in the city, I put 80% of OSP's calls to the city and only 20% to the county. But knowing that everyone's going to say, oh my, OSP is our backstop and they are the ones who are picking up all the slack and they work nights and weekends because we're not paying anybody, then I took every single incident in OSP in 2013 and gave it to the county. You can still see we're down. We're significantly down. Well, not just a few points.
Yeah, but let me ask you, Bill. I mean, somebody looks at this and they say, well, you know what? It didn't become a number because somebody called 911 and they said, well, I'm sorry, we don't have anybody to send out. And so did it not get logged or something? And then that person just had to fend for themselves?
That certainly could happen. Has happened, I'm sure, when their OSP guy was too far away and we had nobody on in county, that they had to fend for themselves.
There's an example of that in the famous one that ended up on Bill O'Reilly's show.
Yes, the 911 call. That actually went originally to OSP, by the way, then was backed up by county. County had no one. But it wasn't, the call did go to OSP and they couldn't supply it.
Now, wait a minute. Guys,
yes,
there's no way in the world that they're going to bring in the phone. There might be a way that they're going to bring in the phone call and not send somebody out. Okay, got that. but there's no way in the world that they're not going to write down a note about the fact they got a telephone call.
No, in fact,
that's
that
where the
I was
law
going to
comes
say the files that we get every year tell exactly how these things are. If there's been a report, the report is put in. And you don't have to say that there's a crime. Now, if they send someone, there's an incident, and I need to do more study on this to know exactly how they sift this, because they do sift it. When your mailbox is punched in during the night by some vandal, and you call them, they're not going to do anything about it in this county. It's not going to happen. You can turn it in, and I think probably the post office does more about it than the sheriff would.
Well, that takes care of my Friday night plans.
Yeah, you don't have.
I think my kid left a few bats in the garage there. You know.
Yeah, well,
I haven't done that since I was a teenager.
Got hit here a few months ago, pretty up and down the road, and I'm wondering whether it's because we have a wonderful post box manufacturing outfit in the county. It makes a real post box.
How convenient.
It's just a way to increase. Now, Bill did a really poor job there of representing the point of view of the pro-levy people. You did a nice job of telling us the statistics, Bill. This is why they hate you, but not a very good job of defending their point of view. Mike, why don't you come in and try to take the pro-levy point of view and explain how people just aren't going to report anything anymore, and that's why it looks like crime's going down when actually it's skyrocketing. Please.
Well, yes, and listen, it's because the criminals know that there is no more law enforcement funding, and so they're emboldened by this. And now, you know, even though I get something stolen at my house every night, I never call the cops because I know that they don't have anybody to send me.
And so wouldn't that then result in that smaller county number?
Right. Yes. Okay. Yes.
Yeah, that's how it's happening, evidently.
Yes. I let them steal my car the other night.
Not going to recall.
Yeah, but okay. Now the problem with that one is, if that's the case, then how come the sheriff knows that the crime is skyrocketing? Why does anybody know the crime is skyrocketing? If nobody's reporting it, how does anybody at all know anything? Because nobody's reporting it, right? Oh, well, it's based on my personal neighbor. Wait a minute. You can't base it on your next door neighbor alone. If you know that they're skyrocketing numbers, how do you know that they're skyrocketing numbers? Or are you just making that up?
Yeah, it could, you know, I'm thinking it's strictly anecdotal, and you know, my feeling is because of the stories that I've heard, and you know, and maybe, listen, it's clear that there are many people who have a little cluster of crime going on in their neighborhood, and for them, crime's going through the roof, and I get that.
Exactly.
I totally get that.
Well,
but,
now we're going to go to a meeting tomorrow that we've been at before, Mike and I, and there was a fellow there, real nice guy, and he had some crime in his neighborhood, and then he and his neighbors kicked up a kind of a fuss, and the crime moved to another place. Go figure. Okay, now that the crime is in another place, he still feels beleaguered. Now, wait a minute. I said to him, I'm sympathetic to you, but crime is no longer, it's no longer here, but it's over somewhere else. Yes. And so why do you then still feel like they're after you? Well, you know, it was pretty traumatic. No, really? It reminds me. Go ahead, Mike.
Well, you know, I mean, I think he was threatened by the situation, and I don't think that the situation was completely alleviated in his neighborhood. They still were, going back and forth between there and their little homeless encampment. And the problem, I felt for that guy's situation because,
Yes.
There are some of us that are having to deal with this. And there was this complication where, they call the police out, but wait a minute, even though this guy lives in the city, the encampment is in the county, and they can't go out there. It's out of their jurisdiction, and there's nobody in the sheriff's department to go handle the situation. Listen, I'm not going to say there isn't a problem going on. And that guy, I think I haven't seen him at one of those meetings yet. I don't know if he just was so ticked off that he didn't want to come back and see us there, knowing that we were against the levy. But yes, and previously, he had said that he had been against the levy before, but he was for it this time because of this situation that affected him. And I think it's important to note that while that guy's situation is, bad for him, it's also a microcosm.
All right.
It's what's going on in his world.
One more detail.
Let me give a little perspective here.
Let him give it.
There are 6,700 of those every year, regardless. We're not going to eliminate crime. It's like you talk to somebody, well, I had a crime in my neighborhood and I want it gone. Okay, if everybody did that, there would be zero crime. That's never happened. We're always going to have crime. As Dale uses the analogy, the cost analysis. What is it going to cost to bring it down, and where can we find a medium where we can live with? And what we found is that this medium is somewhere in the 55 to 6,500 crimes a year. So when you hear of these stories, there are another 6,900, 6,499 of these also waiting out there to tell you their story. We're not going to eliminate the stories. We're going to have crime. What we hope to do is get the crime in the areas that are tolerable for us, where we feel that our dollar is being well used. And mostly, for almost everyone, including if you go to any of the people who collect crime stats and try and weight them, they always weight violent crime as the real issue. And after that, because somebody has a DUI, because somebody is drunk on the sidewalk, that doesn't really bother me. I know it's a crime and all this, but I'm not going to get all excited about it. But if somebody stabs my family or my neighbor, I'm going to get excited about that. That's what I want controlled with my dollar, not a DUI on the sidewalk.
Understand.
And we have to do that because we're not going to eliminate crime. We're going to get it down to what we consider tolerable levels versus what it would cost.
Right.
Tolerable
and all
levels.
Of these anecdotal things.
Yeah.
It's what?
Tolerable
Yes.
levels.
Tolerable
right?
levels.
Tolerable.
Yeah.
One more thing before the next graph, and this maybe not. I'll take it. One more thing.
What was that
the
on
next
this
graph, and that is when Mike and I sat down with the sheriff when he was talking to us before Bill came on our show. When Mike and I sat down with the sheriff, I asked him. I said, now that I'm paraphrasing, now that you didn't get the funding. And one of the reasons you didn't get it is because if you can't give us numbers, then there are some people who are going to say you're not proving your case. Yeah, well, I know it's more. Yeah, I know you say it's skyrocketing, but if you can't prove your case, then people are going to do that cost-benefit analysis without your numbers because you don't have any. It has affected you. Well, I'm not sure that any numbers in the world. Yeah, well, lack of numbers did make a difference. Okay, so what are you going to do now? How are you going to reallocate your priorities to make sure that people are informed in the most transparent county in the entire world, according to Simon here? How are you going to make sure that we do know what the numbers are so we can back you up, Sheriff? And what did he do? What was his reaction? Do you remember his reaction? He laughed.
Yeah.
Oh, I need to show that I'm reliable. Ha 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 ha. Well.
Yeah. Well. Okay. Incidentally, I told you last week that I had found some problems in the state report of crime. I found them in Josephine County. And then I looked at Jackson and Douglas also and found a similar error. So I called up and I talked to Michael Hawkins, who works actually on the spreadsheets. He called me back in 30 minutes. He said, "You're absolutely right. We had a multiple worksheet formula that was off."
Mm.
And
you pointed
that's
it out.
what I suspected, that they were pulling numbers from. And he said, "Here's my number, and if you see any more problems, give me a personal call."
Oh, right. Now,
I wonder how
Bill,
much this guy's making.
yeah, Bill, this guy who is now disliked by the sheriff, is now setting the state straight on how to report their numbers. Thank you, and call us if you see anything else. That is people power to me.
Yes.
Well, he was very nice, and I did ask him about 2014, by the way, and he said there is an OSP problem in their programming, not with the cities or counties, but OSP says it's got a problem right now, and he says we're at a standstill.
Well,
and he says until we work that out, I won't have 2014 numbers.
Yeah, but
I
mean, why not ask him, see if you can get the raw data from him?
Possibility. I doubt that they're going to do that.
I doubt that too, but that's a nice idea.
Nobody out there.
Yeah, well, but you're finding their problems. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
We do that with the county commissioners all the time, especially Sandy Casanelli. Oh my gosh, she gets up there and she says, "Do you realize that this cut and paste that you did from Jackson County actually says so here in Jackson County, and it's in our documentation?" She says they didn't even erase the name properly. She's pointing this stuff out to them. They're like, "Oh, I didn't know that." And do they fix it?
Yes, I mean, who out in the private sector would expect that the people that are preparing their documents would have proofread them?
Yeah.
I expect probably everyone.
Yes.
Yeah.
And who? Okay, this is my Sandy Casanelli box that I get on. Who in the world would expect a previous county commissioner, even ones that were Dwight Ellis and all that, who's now promoting the idea of the $2 bill that will force taxes on you from Salem? Who would expect these guys to show up at any kind of meeting? They never do, no matter what. She was recalled, and she comes to all these meetings and says, "There's a problem. Here's a little problem. Here's something else that needs to be done. You can fix this." And they look at her like, especially Keith Eck, is like, they don't know what to say. They're not going to fix these problems. So thank God that somebody's watching over these numbers. Vivian Kirkpatrick Pilger does it. Mike Jones does it. I do it. And they just call us names, and don't get me started on that. Go ahead, Mike and Bill.
So Bill, which chart would you like to have up on the screen?
Well, I thought I would do just dig a little bit deeper into the 13, just to give us a feeling of where we are versus our geographical area. So let's go on the violent crimes, which are always the top of the list, always the concern, the place you do want to spend your money if they're starting to have problems.
Okay, and I have the 2013 violent crimes per thousand.
Yeah, so crimes per thousand. Now we're looking at 3 cities. You got to remember, these cities have their own police departments, and they report their numbers irrespective of the county. So
zoom in on the left,
cities,
please,
then
Mike.
I'm going to jump over and look at the county. So that's the 2 groups. So have you got the Grants Pass, Medford, Roseburg readable?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so you can see our violent crime per 1,000 population is 17 violent crimes per 1,000. Medford is 22, and Roseburg, surprisingly, in 2013 is 26.
Yeah, that is
which
surprising.
has not been the case in the past. Then we jump over and look at the same violent crime numbers, but we include everything. Now, the Josephine County numbers also include Grants Pass. They're folded into the total population, and we're looking at 9 violent crimes per 1,000 in Josephine, 10 in Douglas County, and 17 in Jackson County. Mm-hmm. So no matter how you look at what we've spent or what we've done, our violent crime is lower per 1,000. So that levels the playing field than the other counties that surround us. Now, is that a good comparison? I don't know. Yeah. We could jump all over the state and do comparisons, but these are people in Southern Oregon who live similar to the way we do. And do they have other problems? Yes, Jackson does have problems that we don't have. But we live in a county that has the lowest violent crime of the three counties,
Yes,
both
but
in the city and in the counties.
yes, Jackson has problems, but they also have $2 more per thousand than we do, or somewhere on that order, $1.50 a thousand more than we do in terms of property tax money.
Yeah, and we'll look a little later at some of the other the things that they have that we don't have, and
Okay.
so we're doing well. Let's move over to
No, wait
Mike.
a second, Mike. Can you stick with that for a second? Okay. Let me get a chance to get a word in edgewise here. Okay. So, and looking at that same blue chart, one of the things that you'll notice is that, and let's look at it through, we'll try to be completely fair to everybody because statistics should not lie. Let's suppose that the pro-levy people are quite right, and the reason that the numbers in the county that we have are so low is that nobody's reporting anything, or there's not enough people down at the headquarters or whatever. Okay, and so maybe that would show us that it's actually skyrocketing. It just looks like we're not skyrocketing. Instead of 9, it should say 90. This kind of makes Jackson County look weird in this chart because they say we're causing them problems. We hear this on Bill Meyer's show on KMED all the time. Well, apparently not. But let's suppose that they're right, and that's why that number is so low. But compared to the charts to the left, Grants Pass has very good coverage. In fact, when we talked with the chief, he said, yeah, we've got really good coverage. Now, why the heck is Grants Pass lower than Medford?
Yeah.
They are reporting their crimes. And if they're reporting their crimes, which they say that they are, and they've got enough people to do that and the staff to do it, why is it that these angles here are pretty much the same, and that Grants Pass is lower and Josephine County is proportionally lower in comparison with the other two? It should not be that way. It should be that it's skyrocketing, right? Well, apparently not. So, and if you ask the chief, why are they
going
having
back,
so
Dale,
much?
to the thing you first said is that they're not turning crimes in. The crimes, these are violent crimes. These are person-to-person knives and guns and sticks and rocks. And if they're not turning that in, then we've got a population that needs some help.
Yeah, well, I'm not worried about the fact that my wife was knifed last night. I got a backhoe. Now, hold on a second. I don't believe that people are not reporting their violent crimes.
You didn't tell me how to backhoe. I've got a use for that at my house. I got all kinds of stuff I need to do.
This is why I appear to be single.
Out loud.
Right. So,
yes.
Look, the point is that Bill Landis, the police chief of Grants Pass, also told us that he's getting a lot of crime from people who are coming in from the county, stealing things in Grants Pass, and then leaving. Okay. Or now, are they also coming in from the county and stabbing people in Grants Pass and then leaving? You know, we got to stop this thing about not being able to go over the border. If that's the case, it sounds like one of those old 1920 movies. Oh, we're over the border into Kansas. Okay, they can't get us now. Now, wait a second. Okay, they're going to be working together on a violent crime. When you look at these numbers and you compare them side by side, when you can see that comparison and they're both generally at the same angle, get my thumb down, both at the same general angle, then something doesn't add up. Where's the skyrocketing, Bill?
Exactly.
Okay, so now we're moving on to the 2013 property crimes per thousand, and here's that chart.
Now here's where we're number one. We're the winners here. Grants Pass 127 per thousand, Medford 101, Roseburg 72. This is property crimes. This is things being stolen, moved, taken, borrowed without permission. Property crimes.
Right.
Generally not involving a person that it was taken from. In other words, you're gone from your home. Things are taken while you're gone. If you were there, it's a violent crime.
Oh, okay.
If you're in within earshot and sight and so forth, and something's taken, it is a violent crime at that. It's a robbery at that
there's
point.
A solution
and
for
that
this.
goes into violent crimes.
There's a solution for this. Stay at home. stop going places.
That's right.
And there'll be nowhere to shop.
Yeah.
There'll be nowhere to shop in Grants Pass anyway, because all these places are going to close down, including the jewelry store. Oh, not that. Okay, so whoa.
Okay.
And
Hey,
as far as
I've got a question.
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, as far as the kitchen store goes, the kitchen store, that might as well be the jewelry store to me, guys. I mean, I realize both of you have wives, and you're going to go to the kitchen store eventually. Me, probably not. But go ahead.
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, you can see that there has, and if you looked at the blue chart, the blue property crimes did go up in 2013 in the city. In the county, because we had such low crime, it brings the Josephine County averages down to just about what were 4 more than per thousand than Jackson. And Douglas seems to be much like our county is. They're a rural county and is not having as much property crime. So yes, we are a leader in 2013 in property crimes per thousand in the 3 counties.
Okay,
not
but
anything to be proud of, but it's not
an
violent crime.
here's an interesting thing though, because on the left over there you have Grants Pass, Medford, Roseburg. Okay, and we have 127 per thousand, and that's in the city of Grants Pass. And then you go over to the Josephine County numbers, 67. Is it still 80%, or I think it was even more? A higher percentage of the property crime that is taking place in the city. Is that not true?
The property crimes, along with all the crimes, count for 87% of the crime in the county that are in the city. Now you got to remember that the Josephine County 67 includes the city of Grants Pass.
Right.
So
well, also Jackson includes Medford
in our total crimes.
Okay,
Yeah.
can you zoom in on the right side there, Mike?
Yes,
These are the best numbers we can bring you, okay? And Grants Pass is reporting their crimes. Now take a look at this. Here we are, zoomed in, 67 and 63, sorry, per thousand. Now 27 is quite a bit lower, but 67 might as well be 63. I mean, it's that close.
Those are statistically the same.
Yeah, so Josephine and Jackson were about the same. They've got a total of $2 in taxes, and we've got a total of, what is it, 2 pennies? How much? 58 cents, right. So, I mean, Jackson County, once again, counterintuitive. Jackson County, you might want to be thinking about lowering your tax rate. You're spending way too much money for this kind of comparison.
Oh, you know what? I think they are spending way too much money. If their county is so reckless that they go crazy like they did on the stupid library tax levy situation, then clearly these people you guys are giving them too much money. They're drunk on it over there.
There's a cost-benefit analysis, and you're going to need to, and maybe we're the masters of this. I don't know. I have a tendency to think that we're kind of lunkheads about it, but the people have spoken, and once we've decided what we're okay, tolerable, not complete intolerance, but tolerable, and we're saying, okay, this is what we're going to put up with. There you go.
Yep. And another thing, when in 12, when there was a panic, we're out of money and terrible, skipping out of jail. I think that many people, our little community here in Merlin certainly did, and it wasn't me that got it started, but one of our neighbors said, let's have a neighborhood watch. I think that the county took it seriously and said, okay, we don't have the money and the financing we did. What can we do? And they went and got lights and sirens and community watches, and crime went down because they got involved. And we are a rural area where it's, our crime amongst ourselves is very low. I think we actually have people coming out from the city probably to the county doing crime because it's easier. you've got plenty of lead time to get in and get out that you don't have in the city.
Well,
Right.
That's
So
conjecture. That isn't
So
fact.
let's set up some toll roads between the city and the county, and when they arrive in the county, they have to pay a toll when they're coming through. We got to absorb the cost.
we've
of
got
it
a
somehow.
friend. We have a friend that could set up a little toll house cookie booth right next to it. Okay, look. You know who I'm talking about. So tolerate me just for a second here, please. So, Diane Meckens, I'm not going to tolerate you ever. You terrible person. Okay, just relax, Diane. Okay, so Mike and I were talking about this thing about distributed power before. And one of the things when I was coming up through the computer industry is that a lot of the people I went to school with said, no, we're going to concentrate all power into one central place where one computer will then feed out to these dumb terminals and everybody at their workstation, and we'll control it all. The saintly silicon priesthood wearing white coats in the computer room will determine the future for people. Okay. Well, then I said, no, the future is going to be in individual computers in your own home. I said, well, yes, of course, it's already happened. No, I hate that idea. That's distributing the power. Well, of course they hated distributing the power. Now what's happening, as we can see, is in the county especially, I'm on a roll now. We're more independent than some other kinds of people. And we say, no, wait a minute, maybe we can handle some of this on our own, and we're going to have to anyway, because unless you're going to put 1,000 police officers out there, we'll never have the kind of coverage that they've got per 1,000 people in Grants Pass. We're never going to have that. We'll never have that, and never have. And so when did you have a 4-minute response time when you live out in the hinterlands? This is not happening. And so if you're forced to kind of watch over yourselves, I'm not saying you never want police. I'm not stupid like that. Okay. When you're going to do that, then you're a little bit more self-sufficient. Self-sufficiency, oh no, it ought to be concentrated in one spot. Maybe not. That's my rant. Go ahead.
Maybe not.
Okay. Yeah. I'm glad your rant is over, because I was about to throw out a spike strip. Okay. So Bill, which chart is next here?
Okay, let's touch on behavioral, because it's a low priority crime statistic for most people, unless you're personally involved in it.
So
behavioral,
you said?
Yeah, behavioral. Yeah.
Behavioral
VPB
is still blue, and it's 2013 behavioral crimes per 1,000.
It's showing right now.
All right, that again, we're the lowest in the 3 counties, 49, 65, 76. And don't ask me why Roseburg
wow, man,
has numbers like that in behavioral.
Can you zoom in on the left side, Mike? And
roses, the pollen. Yeah, the pollen in the air there in Roseburg drives everybody crazy.
Well,
with
we
all
got
the
smoke
roses.
in our air. We got smoke in our area, and it's not only smoke from fires, as you know, as the marijuana advocates say. Bill, answer this question for me. Why is it that this is just a joke. Why is it that the crime is so high in Roseburg? Don't tell me, don't ask. Why is it so high?
Dale, I don't know.
Oh, come on now.
Am I supposed to have is it the roses? I don't know. Where are we going?
No, it's just anytime says don't ask me. Anytime anyone says don't ask me, I always ask. Look, here, this is also, the statistics always show that the difference between 65 and 70 is the same, essentially, between 70 and 76. Okay, it's other sides, but that they even out somewhere around the 70 range, 65, 76. We'll just say anyone who's 65 years old might as well be 70, and anyone 76 years old might as well be 70. But look at Grants Pass, 49.
Oh, no, don't do that.
Significantly different than the other two.
Yes.
Okay, so why is it that Grants Pass on behavioral crime, like not doing your homework, why are they so much lower than the other two? Now, pan over to Josephine County there, Mike, would you? And Bill, can you talk to us a little bit about Josephine versus Jackson? This is the whole county. When he pans over, you'll see that there, yes.
Yep.
Now, tell us again, what is behavioral crime?
Yeah. Behavioral crime is individual people disobeying laws, DUIs, jaywalking, I suppose, in some cities, anything where there is not a victim, you become the victim because you disobeyed a law.
So,
And,
this is not kicking your dog. This is not beating your wife. This is not abusing your children. This is you drinking out on the front lawn once again.
That's it. That's it. You have disobeyed a law. There's no other person or property involved.
So Jackson
again,
County has all these police officers that they pay for that are making sure that no one's running through red lights and etc. And we've got lower rates of reported crimes for behavioral crimes than they do. And keep in mind, if it's things like running through a red light, you're much more likely to see that in Grants Pass than you would in the 1 or 2 red lights over in Cave Junction.
Yes. And you know, I'll have to offer the pro levy people something here. I can imagine a situation where behavioral crimes are not turned in, compared with violent crimes, certainly, and in some ways of property. Behavioral crimes are in some ways in the eyes of the beholder. If there's a person partly drunk, you turn him in, or is he obnoxiously drunk, you finally turn him in.
Right.
You know, that kind of thing. So there's some judgment here on the onlooker to have, the person isn't turning himself in. These are onlookers, and they're making judgments about how severe that is, as you say, cost analysis versus their dollar.
No, wait a minute, though. So I'm going to disagree with you slightly there, Bill. I think it would be be balanced out by the fact that stopping people who are running through red lights is a source of income for the city and the county. And therefore,
yes, there is that.
So what are police and sheriff's officers more likely to do? Do 7 or 8 traffic stops and violations of turn signals and that kind of stuff every day to be a source of income versus going out and busting a drug cartel? Aren't they much more likely to go up for things that are, one, a little safer? I understand safety. Okay, that's good. You know, Mike and I have a very dangerous job, and that they would want to bring in more money.
Yeah.
Low-hanging fruit.
It might balance out.
Yeah, it may. I see, as I've gone through the last 15 years of crime stats, I see a huge variance in behavioral, which I do not see as much, in fact, nowhere close, the variances in property and violence. Year to year, place to place, seem to have quite a swing in what has happened in behavioral crime.
Well, I'll tell you one reason why.
It is low on the totem pole.
Yeah. I'll tell you one reason why that we see this. I'll tell you one reason why we see this living in the city. I see this all the time. How many of us have gone through some kind of area and then you see that suddenly out of nowhere, for no reason as you can discern, they're being very tough on people driving 27 miles an hour in a 25 zone. And they just go through these periods of, is it driven, as some conspiracy friends of ours think, well, this is just driven because they want a little bit more money, or somebody locally complained, or the local vendors want you to slow down and see the sale in their window, and so that, or because some old guy was run over. Okay, I doubt very much the fourth thing happened, but we see this come and go, and it may be a year-by-year thing, or maybe someone comes in and says, well, we're going to get tough on jaywalking this week. You know, really?
Yes.
So is that what you would attribute the variances in numbers of behavioral crimes to there, Bill?
I can see a certain logic to that, because I do think that there are times when awareness comes up and someone says, you know, I haven't had, and okay, we're going to deal with that in the next 3 months, 6 months. We're going to do a lot of DUI because of X happening. So yes, that could account for it. I just know that in the years that I've looked at here, behavioral varies more than the other two, for whatever reason.
Okay, Bill, what's next?
Okay, let's look at the 3-county comparison. This is going to be a kind of a brief stop, but it's an interesting thing to know about, because people can get this material and study it for themselves and look at the implications. And here,
Okay.
let's moving to the left-hand side there, Mike, where we see Grants Pass, Medford, and Roseburg. What we're looking at is the number of employees that the Grants Pass, Medford, and Roseburg have listed in their public safety for those 3 areas. This is not county-wide. This is just what Grants Pass City Police, Medford, I'm supposing, City Police, and Roseburg list as their number of employees, not officers, total employees in public safety. So we have in Grants Pass 77, in Medford 137, and 39 in Roseburg, which mean nothing really until you know what the population is. And the only way I've really done that is said, how many citizens per employee does that equal? And so in Grants Pass, there's 36,000 approximately, and 77, it divides out, there's 456 citizens per employee in public safety.
Right.
In Medford, it is 560-ish, and about the same in Roseburg, another 560. So we could say that the more normative, if you have a lot of money, is the mid 500s. But you look at Grants Pass has good coverage, it appears, at 456 people per employee. So, okay, let's move over now, and we'll take a look at the impact of that on the whole county. And that changes quite a bit in all 3 counties. All of a sudden, where we had 77 people in Grants Pass for 35,000, we now have 130 for 85,000 approximately. So we come up at 637 employees, quite a load per employee.
Yeah.
But you jump to Jackson, and Jackson jumped from 567 down to the 480s, 420s. They have 486 employees, and with their population, they're actually dealing with 429 apiece.
That is amazing.
486.
486 in total, and that's OSP, and that's OLCC, and that's all of the little burgs and hamlets and the county.
Right. Okay.
They have 486 employees in their public safety. And so their numbers come out that each employee is allocated 429 people, in essence.
Right. That's a much better ratio.
And Douglas is about the same. They jumped in Douglas from a 560 down to a 413. So in the lower 4s is where both of those tend to work with their money. Look where Josephine is. We're working for our money at 637, and yet look at our violent crime and look at our behavioral crime.
I'm telling
Property
you,
crimes are up.
I'm telling you, this is screaming for a serious survey to be done.
It was just a joke.
It's mind-boggling.
That's amazing.
No, it's not a joke. I mean, listen, somebody set us all straight. We're all crazy, right?
Yes.
I mean, this is, we're goofy here. We don't know what we're talking about, and we're missing some huge chunk of data. We're just a bunch of dumb hicks here.
Yep. Well, I love anybody who wants to double check all these figures. That's fine with me.
I did not start into this thinking that any of these things could possibly, Mike, Bill. I did not start into this thinking that any of these things were possible. But once you look at the numbers, that's why I made up this joke about this. But there has to be in any enterprise a certain balance. How many more people? I know Mark Gatlin said, well, if we have 15 signs, why, even if one person is, 15 signs cannot tell you keep your kids out of a rushing river because you might lose them. It doesn't matter how many signs are if that's not in your heart.
Yeah.
Or if you're going to turn your back for a moment, I'm sorry that this may be God's plan for you. Sorry, but He moves in mysterious ways.
Wow! You're so insensitive, Dale Matthews.
But
And that's
15
two rants in
signs.
one show. I don't think that's right.
Yes,
15
yes, that's right.
15 signs is not going to make a big difference if you don't see the first sign.
Yes, two rants. You're right. We should be griping about equality here.
Yeah, well,
Yes.
somebody ought to be griping about you guys.
It's a
Okay,
short
look,
show, guys.
It's a short. No, it's been a pretty long show. What's your next chart, Bill?
It has been.
Okay,
but the point is, we
let's
need to
jump
balance
one
this
last
stuff out.
set. There's two for OSP 2013 personnel by county.
OSP.
So throwing millions of dollars at a problem
Okay.
is.
I do have your OSP personnel by county.
Okay, this is important for one main reason over this last year, and that is that OSP has been quoted as 850% more involvement. They've been quoted as picking up all of our slack if their phone calls were out of sight, and that we are damaging the Southern Oregon because the number of people we're using to take up our slack, and just all kinds of things that OSP has been our savior. I want to look at just what the numbers are in 2013. Now, this is after our problem for 18 months has been going on, 6 months, and then they upped their numbers, supposedly. Mm-hmm. So we have, in 2013, 14 people. Now, that's employees, male and female, but 14 that OSP attributes to our county. Mm-hmm. In Jackson, it's 42. In Douglas, it's 23. Again, doesn't mean a whole lot until you know the population. And because maybe we've got a little tiny population and we're overstaffed, and Jackson's got a huge population and they're just barely making it. So let's move next to the next one, which is the 2013 personnel per citizen.
Personnel per citizen.
2013 OSP. Personnel
this should be
per
interesting.
Citizen.
Oh, okay.
So this ends up telling us really what we haven't known, and that is that Josephine has the short end of the stick still in 2013. 5,900 citizens per OSP officer in our county. 4,900 citizens in Jackson per OSP personnel, and 4,600 in Douglas County per person. Mm-hmm. So just a minute. When do we get to have 45, 47, 4,900 citizens per OSP person?
Right.
Where is this huge influx from OSP and shorted everybody else in the state's mad because they have to pay for our people? They're not paying what they're paying in Jackson and Douglas right now.
You know what? Every time we go into some new set of statistics, this just proves how hoodwinked we get when it comes time to asking for more money. That they never tie this to services rendered or anything. It's what an amazing thing. Create this illusion. And and listen, we do have less money coming in, and so they automatically equate that to crime wave, and clearly not the case.
Yep.
All right, but I can look at this, and I can already see there's a big mistake on this chart.
Uh-oh.
Citizens is spelled wrong.
Go for it, Dale. Third rant.
Citizens is spelled wrong.
It is.
Yeah, how are we going to trust you if you write citizens?
Oh, dear.
Up top on the big one. I was looking at the thing next to the green block. Yes, that's right. Yeah, this chart is wrong.
Oh, my God.
Just throw it all out.
Throw it out.
All right,
that chart is wrong.
We ought to be angry about this chart because we were told directly that we're using too many OSP people, that they are backing us up in every way, that we're taking away OSP people that could be helping out at other counties, that we're leaning on the system that's just not fair, and this shows that fact was a lie.
Well,
That's
you know what? I got to tell you, they had best bone up on this stuff and be ready for the next, the next levy, because we're going to be loaded for bear here with all this stat information. How are they going to refute all this stuff?
They're not going to. They're going to say so.
Because I remember clearly in the newspaper and people.
Huh?
Go ahead, Bill. Did
Uh-oh.
we lose Bill?
Maybe we did.
Oh, Bill's here.
Oh,
Good. Go ahead.
you were saying, Bill.
Did I drop out?
Yeah, I guess.
Okay. No,
You're dropped out right now there, pal.
He's getting so excited.
If
That's
you can
why.
hear me, Bill, adjust. Yes,
I'm back.
Yes,
Is
you're
this better?
back. Yes, it is better. Stay where you are.
I will stay seated in this chair.
Yeah. Stop getting up.
No,
With your
the
head in
people
that
were saying
exact
the
position.
OSP numbers are dependable, but the others are, well, maybe up for grabs. Well, if the OSP numbers are dependable, then here we have it. You know, we're not sucking up the energy, and the state is not paying for any extra that they're not giving to Jackson or Douglas.
Right. That's a good point.
This reminds me of Cliff Thomason. Okay. Cliff won't like this, but too bad, Cliff. Okay. In the same sentence as I'd mentioned to you before, Cliff said to me, well, don't be thinking of the commissioner skimming off 10%. They're only going to be taking 0.5% away from the sheriff. No. Oh, well, don't be. And in the same sentence, he said, oh, no, don't be thinking of that. Be thinking of the fact that once they take 10% out of the sheriff's money, skim it off the top for themselves and county government, that the sheriff's going to get back 15%. Now, wait a minute. You know, if you're going to try to bamboozle us with numbers, you better be able to prove them. These aren't our numbers. These are the OSP's numbers, the ones where they said we were taking advantage of the system. Obviously not. They could not compete in this last idea of saying who is right and who is wrong. They couldn't compete with the numbers. So they had a bunch of anecdotal stories, which were all heart-rending. I mean, I love Kittens and Sunshine too. But you better, if you're going to be asking us to dip into their pockets, don't lie to us. Don't exaggerate. Show us the numbers. You better assign someone to getting the numbers, just like you got someone assigned to this and you got someone assigned to that. This numbers thing is important because look at how much money that you've lost because you don't even have the commissioners backing you up anymore. Even when the $1 million came in that was not part of the road funds, that could have been spent on this is going straight to the general fund, not from the road dollar. Well, I want to be sure potholes. This got nothing to do with potholes. This was additional money they did not know they were going to get, and they still won't spend it on the sheriff. You've even lost your liaison, sheriff, that's not even hardly talking to you. Remember, the last time we went to go see him, he said that she hadn't talked to him in weeks. That's his liaison. They're not interested in funding the sheriff. They're interested in the 10% coming from a levy. And now that there is no levy, he's lost all of his pals. Where are they? They're not coming to meetings. We have been. But even he doesn't get up and say it anymore. We did. So what happened to all those guys? Well, let me tell you, it's not about the money. Yes, it was. It's proven. Where are you?
That's right.
Okay, Bill.
No.
So, do we have anything left here to do?
Nope, we're out of graphs, and so thus endeth the meeting.
Okay, one last little thing. Predictions, gentlemen, on any subject at all, where you're going to tell people about something maybe they hadn't quite thought about. And for example, we mentioned at the beginning of the show that there is this thing about the way the ballot initiative is written, that maybe it could potentially be challengeable because it's not written well by the city. So, gentlemen, Bill, do you have anything that you'd like to tell us about that maybe people haven't been thinking about? Predictions?
A possible prediction. I kind of predict that this whole idea of exempting as many professionals as they have out of the city tax, and then realizing that every one of those professionals who may own property in the city and don't have to collect any tax themselves for anything. They get $1.79 a thousand back on anything they own. And they're not going to get taxed themselves, and they're not going to have to worry about turning anything in. And I think that is going to grow, where people are saying, just a minute, all the people who needed the least are getting.
You dropped out there again.
Oh, man, I hate
the gist.
Right. You back?
Okay. Is that better?
Yeah, you said the people who, need it the least or whatever.
Yeah, the people who are the professionals who have buildings and have they're not having to charge or collect the tax, and yet they're getting instantly $1.79 back. Who are they giving that back to? Are they spending that and we'll get the tax that way? I think that's going to turn around to have people say, just a minute, all these professionals, they're getting a windfall in their personal property tax.
And what's ironic about that is the idea that the people in Grants Pass City have been saying that it's unfair that they're footing the bill for people out in the county, and now they're turning on themselves because it's unfair that some classes of citizens, to use Karl Marx terms, are now getting a special deal from the city because don't most of the city councilors fall into that same class? How about you, Mike? Any predictions, Mike, about things that are coming up where people may want to pay attention to this?
The Braves will win the pennant. I predict that over the next few days, we're going to have some videos from tonight's First Friday, and we're going to be talking about sales tax and other related things. And so there'll be more of that to come.
So
there are some very impassioned people, and we're going to give them more than 3 minutes, by the way. They're going to be able to have their say.
Based on that, Mike, would you predict that that there's going to be more people that are for or against the idea of the sales tax in Grants Pass?
Oh, I'm going to predict it's going to be mostly no, and we're not going to manipulate the numbers. I'm willing to talk to anybody and everybody that I talk to. It will statistically, what you see on this show will be statistically what we encounter.
Okay, thank you for that. I predict something in the area of Eco Northwest, which is now the new people from out of our area that are going to determine our financial future for us. And Cheryl Walker had brought up all along that they're called Eco Northwest. Then there was all this criticism of, well, are they only involved in ecology, Eco Northwest, or what? And then she suddenly, for no apparent reason, well, we know why, started calling them Econ. Oh, it's always been Econ North. No, it's Econ Northwest. And Keith Heck can't remember this. Econ, Keith. Okay, so I predict that what's going to happen is when Eco Northwest, and we independently confirmed this, Mike and I did, that's not what their name is. It's not Econ Northwest. That when they arrive here, suddenly they'll be calling themselves Econ Northwest. You could call them ham sandwich. They don't care as long as you pay them.
Yes, that's true.
Right.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you to our audience. I hope you found some of the information we're giving you fair and honest. All of the information is fair and honest. And good luck in Bill Hunker's relationship with the sheriff.